Hello, hello, hello. Welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage with Pastor Larry. I have a special guest on today. None other than my soulmate.
Hi, everybody.
Sister Elisa Wilson. All right. Let's get right on into it. Welcome everybody out there. We're going to get right on into our subject today, which is a woman's role in a marriage. Now, as husband and wife, you're not gonna always agree on everything, and especially you folks that are in the ministry and those that are newlyweds. You're gonna have those days where you're not gonna agree on different things. But there's a certain role that a woman plays in a marriage that keeps it going. And even though we say that the man is the head of the household, the woman is actually the one that runs everything. So
Absolutely.
Lisa, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts is a woman's role in a marriage is an extremely important role. Basically, we as women, especially when the women's lib came about, we wanted to hold on to the fact that we can do things by ourselves. Well, we know we can do things by ourselves, and we can survive by ourselves. But when we are in a marriage, it's not an I thing. It's a 2 plus equal 1. Now that sounds strange. But it's going backwards, sort of. You no longer two, or no longer it's just me or just I. You have to be considerate of your mate, especially when God has given you someone who, like I'm fortunate enough that God has given me a great husband, a husband who's after God's own heart, and he puts God first, and he puts me next, and I adore that. I respect that, and I love that. But as far as our role within the home, we're to be the wife. We're not to be doormats or anything like that. Right. But we are to, and I love that my husband allows me to walk beside him. I don't walk behind him.
Right.
Everything we discuss. Right. That's right. Everything we do, we discuss it. We go through it, our decisions, our financial decisions, all of that. The one thing that my husband did when we first got together, he put me on his bank account. Now, that's unusual, and I know in instances where there may be some concerns, then that may be a slightly different.
Right.
But he put me on there because he wanted to start the marriage off correct. He wanted to start the marriage off with honesty and knowing that the trust was there, and knowing that everything that we was going to do for the best thing for our family.
Right.
And that's what we have to do. And women, we support that. We have to uplift our husbands. We have to encourage them. We always want to be told that we are beautiful and that we look good when we put on something. But they have to feel that as well. They have to know that we care, that we love them, that we still adore them. It's not enough to say that when you're seeing someone, but we have to keep them encouraged, and we have to uplift them, especially when we are married to people that are in the ministry.
Now, let me interject here.
Sure.
Question. Now, for the people out there, did you feel this way when we first? This is for the newlyweds and people that just got married. Did you feel this way when we first got married?
No. Actually, I did not. It was a learning process. I had been brought up in a home where both of my parents were, and they've been married now over 50 years. So I saw what the right thing was to do. But I was 19 years old when I got married. So there was still, although I was probably more mature than most, yes, but there was still some immaturity levels, and I had never been married before. When God sent me my husband, it was not even something I wanted. When he told me the first day that he took me to dinner, he said, God said, you're going to be my wife. I said, you got to be crazy, because I'm going back to Mississippi. I had different plans. That's why sometimes people hear me say, God sent me a blessing when I didn't know I needed a blessing.
Right.
That's my saying. And the reason being is because it was not something that I had chose to do. My idea was to go to college, get my degree. I had my life all planned out, but God said otherwise, and
Right.
I had to move from one state, the state that I had known all my life, to come to another state, not knowing that God had something so much greater and so much bigger for me. And then when we first got married, even though after I agreed to marry him, there still was these little walls that were up.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that.
And I think he talked about having these walls up from relationships and baggage and things like that. But this was the key for me to overcome that. Number one, I got saved. Prior to marrying my husband, I got saved, and so even though I had been in church all my life, I believe there were times in my life that church was not necessarily in me. But once I made that turnaround and that decision, then I was open to the right things that I needed to do.
Right. Exactly.
But most of all, my husband loved me unconditionally. He loved me regardless of me. I went through the period. Sometimes that I've brought messages and told people how I used to pop my head and snap my fingers and do all of that kind of stuff. I went through that period.
Right.
Thank God I didn't have to go through it a very long time. But as I look back, I think about having a man who loved on me all the time. If I had just acted right from the beginning, then my honeymoon would have started from the beginning. Instead, my honeymoon took maybe a couple of years to get into. But as a result of him loving me, regardless of me popping my head and snapping my fingers, and want to tell him, now mind you, now I was saved, but there was still some of those walls and some of those things that had been brought over to me. That guess what? I had not even realized that they were part of my life. I didn't realize I had not gotten delivered from them. I had not allowed myself to let those things go.
Yeah, there's a releasing period you have to do in order to move on.
Absolutely.
In any relationship.
Yeah, and my husband helped me see that, and once I saw that, then I knew how to operate in my role, because it wasn't something that I did not know how to do. It was something at the time I chose not to do it right away. I had seen it. I've seen it with my parents. I've seen it with, other family members. I've been fortunate and blessed that I've seen, aunts and uncles, they've been married over 50 years, and they've been married. So these are the things that God has surrounded with me and prepared me for, but I had made a choice not to begin it right away. Even though I said yes, finally, and said yes to marry him, and I think it probably went slightly to the immaturity level in that area, not immature as a person, but immaturity in that area. But once I grew in that area and allowed myself to grow in that area, then I began to know and to understand. And it's still a learning process. Sometimes there's still things that we're learning even today after 32 years. It's still, some things that we're still learning one another. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Right. The only time it's a bad thing when those things hinder the growth within the marriage. But as far as the role as a woman in the marriage, you have to be that mother. You have to be to your children, that's the other thing. Don't try to be no husband's mama. I think my husband talked last week about, don't be trying to say, my mama did it this way and things like that. And we have to be the same way. I'm blessed to have a good father. But I can't keep reminding my husband, my dad did it this way, or you need to do it like my dad, or things like that. Because when we get off into that, then those are the areas where we cause problems.
Right, arguments.
And cause arguments. And sometimes people look at us crazy when we say we don't argue, but we really don't. Now that doesn't mean we don't disagree or discuss things. But the thing is, we've learned to choose our battles. Right. And some of those battles are just not worthy of arguing and fussing and fighting. Life is too short. We have to take our role, our role is to stand by our husbands, support our husbands, stand by our children, support our children. In my case, my husband's a pastor, so I have to support. Even, don't get me wrong, does that mean I agree with every decision that he makes? Absolutely not.
I hope
But but what I do is I find the positiveness in it, or we discuss it, and you know, and I let him know how I feel. But I only let him know how I feel if he asks me. I don't go and try to put in his spirit, oh no, you need to do it this way. You need to, you know, do it a different way. I wait till he comes to me or inquire in regards to, you know, a decision that he's trying to handle, you know, and I just stay in my lane. He's a pastor. That doesn't make me a co-pastor.
What would advice that you would give like a young couple or a young lady that's seeking to be married or looking to be married? Because really the young lady shouldn't really be looking for a husband. The husband's supposed to find her.
Absolutely.
So, but she has to be prepared. So when she finds him or when he finds her, she'll be somewhat ready to receive what the Lord has for her. What advice would you give a young lady that's in the process of thinking about marriage?
One of the things is we know everybody's not saved, so this is literally, I'm gonna take it on saved or unsaved. Take very good leading examples. Pastors and their the first lady of the pastor, or your mother or your grandmother. Now, does that mean you do everything they tell you to do? Absolutely not. But take their guidance when you see it is working. This is what I learned from my parents' relationship. I take the good and what works for me and mine. I don't take everything, but I made a conscious decision that anything that I saw that was not maybe right or different, then that just did not work for my marriage. I didn't take that. But also be prepared. Be prepared mentally. Don't just say, I want to get married. Prepare yourself. Try to understand exactly what that means. If you haven't been in it, then you don't know it. But try to understand it. Do whatever is necessary. Prepare your mindset that it's no longer you. Prepare your mindset that you can't just go and spend when you want to because you're used to that. It's kind of funny because my husband always laughs at me about watching Married at First Sight. But some of the things that I see on there are interesting because sometimes these women they're used to spending their money. They spend the way they want to spend it, and then they get in these, especially because they haven't learned that about each other, that one don't spend like the other, so it's a learning experience for them. But be prepared mentally, and don't let anyone push you into getting married. If you're not ready, if you're ready. You really honestly will know if you're ready.
Yeah.
But prepare your mind, prepare your soul, prepare your heart. Because if God sends him, he's going to be great. And when God sends him,
see the thing about it, when the Lord send you somebody, a lot of times they're not going to look great at first.
Yeah.
But you have to trust the Lord.
Yeah, to trust.
Because they had ugly red shirt on, so I didn't look great.
And this is the thing, when they are God sent, it's in my case, I didn't really understand that he was God sent, but I knew it was something different.
Right.
Because when I moved here from South, I really hated Illinois, to be honest, and I always thought mostly everybody other than my family that lived here, they were crazy. So when I met this man, he came and asked me what time the bus comes, and it dawned on me a while later. I'm like, that bus never is late. And I had said that to him, but it really dawned on me that it was ordained. Everything was ordained.
Yeah, it was.
And when things are ordained, it was in the plan. And when everything is in the plan, then you have to make sure you prepare yourself. But this is the key. When you don't, at that time I didn't know to say this, but I know to say it now, that let God's will be done. And like he always remind everybody, he had the ugliest red shirt on, but it still was something different. It was still something different about him, and I couldn't put my finger on it at the time, but I knew something different. One, he took me to dinner the first day. He probably would have took me to church, but they had no service that night. So we went to dinner, and then we went on Friday, and we went to church on Sunday. So, and I get in this church. I had been in the Baptist church all my life, and I saw people what we call get happy, but these people were shouting and dancing and carrying on, and I'm like, I don't know want this for
Yeah.
me? But it's still, even saying that, it was still something different. And
Yes,
it was just something different. And like I said, I didn't think I was prepared, but as I think back, God was preparing me all along, being around my aunts and uncles and my parents and and loved ones. And God always had me under the feet of older people.
Right.
When I was growing up, listening to their stories. My grandfather been gone many, many years, and my grandmother still refers to him as dear. Simple things like that prepared me for it. Right. So we have to allow ourselves, this is the key, allow ourselves to be prepared. Don't go in with the mindset that I'm getting married, but everything is still mine. This is still mine. This is my account. This is my this is my that. You gotta, whatever, each party has to bring something to the table. And unfortunately, sometimes that may not be an even split. You have to be okay with that.
Now, what about, because I know we've been through this, what about couples? Because, every couple is going to go through this at one point or another in the relationship. What about those that are going through, like, financial things or financial issues within the marriage?
Well, the key with going through financial issues is just working through it together. Whatever decisions are made, those decisions are made together.
Right.
One should not go off and, be... and had money... I will leave that one alone. but the thing about it is, whatever you're going through, not just financial, whatever you're going through, you have to be okay with going through it together.
Right. Discussing
it, you have to talk. Communication is everything. We have to understand something. Men don't want to communicate. We'll talk all day long.
Yeah.
Because my husband's time probably over now, where he normally is done by now. I'm still talking. But this is the thing. You have, in certain instances, the communication has to be there.
Right.
And you have to be okay.
We talked about communication.
Independent women love it. I went to school. But the thing is, we have to also know when to be humble, when to open our mouth, when to shut our mouth. Because I'm a talker. And I want everybody to know my thought process and how I feel about everything. Sometimes we have to shut it. Sometimes we just have to zip our lip. And we have to recognize when the time is, because the more and more often you learn how to calm it down, then it makes it makes your life better. But it not only does that, but it just creates a bond and a relationship between you and that spouse continually. I have a best friend, been friends for over 40 years, but he's still my best friend as well, on a different level, and guess what? I like my husband. See, I hear some women say, "Oh, I love him, but I don't like him." I like my husband. I really do. Now, let me tell you something. When we first got married, he's very comical. Everything he does, he brings joy by that comedian setup. And I remember there were times when I would tell him everything is not funny, because I was always thinking that everything needed to be. But I learned something in that.
It got you through.
It got me through. Yes, that joy got me through. Yes. When I would be down, and even sometime when things are bothering me or disturbing me, he'll say something funny, and I'll find myself laughing and totally forget about what I'm going through.
Right.
Or it makes me go through it better. It makes me go through it with joy. And
laughter is like a medicine.
It absolutely is.
Couples have to. Married couples have to enjoy themselves.
Absolutely,
have fun with each other.
You gotta have fun.
We always have fun. We do teasing each other.
Yeah, and even though he doesn't like it, it took me many years, but I got him to go to the grocery store with me. See, you can draw more with honey than you can with anything else, and I got him to a point, and sometimes we do have to sacrifice. So he sacrificed doing things that he may not necessarily want to do, and sometimes I have to do that same thing. And as a woman and the role in the home, I hear him say all the time that the woman makes the home.
Right.
And you know,
Definitely.
if she's and I find that is so true. If I'm upset or disturbed, I mean, everybody got to tiptoe around me. Everybody got to get quiet. Feel like they got to get quiet, and that shouldn't necessarily have to be.
Right.
You know, and we know that people are going to disagree and all of that kind of stuff, but the biggest thing, like I say, is be prepared. Whether you saved or not saved, prepare yourself mentally, prepare yourself spiritually, prepare yourself naturally. However, whatever areas in your life that are part of your life, get yourself prepared. I know a young lady who desired to be married, and she waited on the Lord. And but one thing she did is she waited on the Lord in the natural. She prepared herself. She would go get lingerie. She kept it, what do they call it, chest, hope chest.
Yeah.
That some of us don't even know anything about. And she put those things in there in that hope chest. I guess that's what it means, in hope of
Yeah.
of waiting on the Lord to give you what your heart's desire is. But she prepared herself, and we have to be prepared in all areas of our life. To be married. See, marriage is a job within itself. But guess what? It could be a great job.
A fun job.
It could be fun. It could be loving. It could be your heart's desire. Right. Whatever it is. But and then this is the other thing, and I'm gonna try to stop here. But in preparing yourself for marriage, you know, also know what you want and be honest and open up front.
Right.
That is the key. The worst thing you could do is get in a marriage and 5 years down the road, you find out something that's a hindrance to that marriage. So be honest and upfront as preparing yourself and being that wife. And then once you get into that marriage, you know, find ways to keep the home fire burning.
Right.
You know, I think my husband talked about that. Yeah. You know, whatever that is, you know, don't get caught up in, well, I'm used to doing it this way, or I'm doing that. And one of my friends told me a long time ago, never say no. And don't act like you got a headache when you know you don't have a headache. You know, so we have to be real, and right. that's the area sometimes, especially church people, they don't want to discuss those areas, but right. That's a part of your marriage.
It's really needed and
it's needed. It's marriage. A part of your marriage, yeah. And you have to be, you know, open and honest up front with everything. But you also, when she told me that, I reminded her recently that she told me that, and she's like, I told you that? Man, I got to get back to doing that myself. but it is, because you know what, it makes your life, you know, better. You know, and that don't mean you're being, you know, that you don't have a mind of your own. My husband lets me have a mind of my own. He lets me have my own character. He knows, and the more and more you
minister to each
absolutely, other. You know, you learn more about each other. So you learn, like, I know what he don't like. I can tell by his looks when he doesn't like something. He could tell when I'm not okay with something just by how I look, you know. So once you get to that place and you find your role. But once you find your role, stay in that lane. Don't try to, you know, we know we wear pants all the time, but don't try to wear his pants. Okay?
That's right.
Because when we try to wear his pants, let the man lead. I love when my husband takes me somewhere, he opens my door still, he pulls out my chair, all those kind of things that he did to try to impress me. What's wrong with him trying to impress me now? Nothing. So he still do those things, and if the men can do those things, we as women, we have to. Our role is to make sure we're doing that, actually doing greater things, right. You know, doing better things. You know, and then when it comes to our children, you know, we have a lot of blended families these days. You know, be the best mother, and you know, I love how people say daughter in love, and I've been seeing that lately. You know, and things like that. When it comes to the in-laws. But the next thing is keep other folks out your business. Everybody don't need to know everything.
Next week we're going to be talking about the in-laws.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
That's going to be interesting.
But yeah, keep, and there's nothing wrong with having a good friend or a good cousin or whatever to just share your thoughts sometime with. But even those individuals don't need to know everything. Learn how to go to your husband, you know, and have the discussion. Let him know. I remember there was a time when I didn't feel like I was okay going directly to my husband to say anything. I wrote him a letter. I told him, this is how I feel, you know. So we have to find that neutral ground, and we have to find that thing that what worked for us may not work for someone else.
Exactly.
So what you do is you work at finding what works for you. And once you find out what works for you, then you operate in that, and you operate on that. And when you operate on that, then it just makes it makes your life better. It makes the stress less between the two of you all, and the less stress between the two of you all is also the less stress within the children. And like I was saying about the blended families, we have these blended families. So love on those children as well. You don't make a difference in them. When they come into your home, you love on them and do just what you would do for your own children. Don't make any differences in them. But make that clear. And if you really don't have a problem with that, that's a discussion that needs to be had before you say I do.
Right. All right. We've heard from my soulmate on what her thoughts are of the women's role in the marriage. Hope some of you took some notes or take down some notes and follow that example, because she is a wonderful person. I just love her so much.
Love you too.
All right, we're going to be signing off here. We went a little overtime, but I'm kind of glad though. But we'll see you next week, and God bless you.
Bless you.
Let's talk marriage.